Hey YouTube, it's Taylor. The last video I said I was gonna do a girlfriend edition, so this is Nicole. She's really nervous, she doesn't really want to do it, but I'm making her do it anyway. So we're pretty much just gonna talk about my transition and what it meant for Nicole, or what changed or what didn't change about our relationship, and just an overall summary of that. Go ahead.
So I met Taylor in school. It was like my first or second day in speech class. And he sat in front of me, and I was so very intrigued by this person. I couldn't stop staring, and I just told myself like that I had to get to know him, and I had to be his friend. I had to have him a part of my life in some way.
Well, this was pre-transition though.
Right.
So I was still identifying as female.
Right. Okay. So it was like she and stuff. But yeah. So we got to talking. It was a process. That was a process in itself. Taylor was really, really shy, and so was I guess. But we did start talking. I lived an hour and a half away from school, and Taylor would come and drive out to my house and visit me, and we'd spend time together, and we became really close friends.
Basically.
The odd thing was that I knew nothing. I knew so little about what transgender is, and what transitioning was. I knew nothing, but the little that I did know, I felt that it was applicable, and that was so. That was the smallest part of everything, but it was still there, and that's interesting to me, I guess. So there was one night, we were just hanging out, and I sort of asked without asking. Taylor used to get excited when certain people would mention that he looked more masculine that day, or his outfit looked manly, and he'd get really excited. But then someone else would say it another day, and he'd sort of be depressed by it. So again, I felt like that little like voice inside where it was like, whatever transgender is, and again, I didn't have a name for it, but I was just like, whatever that is, I think that's what this person is. And so I asked him about it, and he got so defensive and literally shut the conversation down and said, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And that was that. That was okay with me. I was only asking as a friend and as a supporter. So we didn't talk about it. We got together, and then soon after, like days later, right?
After being officially together, yeah. It was like
Yeah.
4 days later or something.
He just said it, and I think his words were very simple. Like, I'm female on the outside, but in my head, I'm something different. I'm male, and how is all that really needed to be said. I was okay with that, and at the same time prepared for it in an odd way. I didn't Google it, I didn't look it up, I didn't do research prior to that conversation. It was just very, is settling the right word? It was right. It fit him, what I knew of him. So I was supportive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just wanted him to be okay. So whatever was next was what we were going to do, So the next step was, what is this? From then on, Taylor couldn't stop talking about it. Mm-hmm. So once he told me, and I embraced who he was, who he is, then it all came out. So yeah. It was more than just, I feel this way. Stories started coming out, and how he got through his childhood with these feelings came out. Just so much more. And I appreciated that openness. It was really important to our relationship. And it all was very complicated, and also made sense in our lives at the same time. I identify as a straight woman and always have, and so when we got together it was really confusing, and then when Taylor was honest about who he is, it made more sense. Things made more sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we started Googling transgender,
Yeah.
and that's where we realized YouTube was this platform for the transgender community, and it was really helpful to me as a girlfriend and as a supporter. So we spent a lot of late nights looking at videos, and even when Taylor wasn't home with me, he was in Israel for a good amount of time. And during that time, I really dove into researching what this meant, not only for him, but for me. So if I was planning on being here long term, like, what does that mean? And there was a lot of varying circumstances, but I realized, like, it didn't mean that I was lesbian, like, just different things that I had innocent questions about. YouTube was helpful, and a lot of forums and stuff like that. Then we began dealing with depression on some days. We have good days, we call, and bad days.
Yeah.
Not only for me, but for him. Like, some days is just harder from the moment he wakes up. And those days can be really tiring and heartbreaking, and frustrating, because as a girlfriend and as a partner in this whole situation, I'm kind of helpless. And I feel like I don't have, or I guess I do now more than I did before, but I didn't have any support in supporting him, if that makes any sense. I had no one to back me up in reaffirming this man and building him back up just throughout the day, telling him that it's okay, and that we could get through it. It was just me. It was just me and him. And that could be difficult. Sometimes I have to know that I'm not enough, and I'm not saying that in a terrible way, but it's such an inner battle for him, and I really do see that. It has nothing to do with me or what I can give to the situation, but just how he can mentally work through it for himself.
Yeah.
And all I can do is be there through the process and offer what I have to give, and so I do. We do. We get through it. Nothing huge ever really happens. Nothing totally dramatic, but there's good days, and then there's rough, rocky,
Yeah, there's bad days.
tiring, exhausting days.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We all have those. So I don't know what else with that part, but and then we transitioning with pronouns and names was interesting, because here was this female and male relationship, and he never asked to be treated like anything. It just came very natural to us. It was from the beginning, even when he identified, well, you never identified as female, really, but when you were female to the world, it was still a very masculine-feminine relationship between us. So it just felt natural to say he, but he wasn't ready for it for a while.
Yeah, it took me a while.
Yeah, so he's, what did you say? You felt like you
It
couldn't
was
ask?
like because my physical self hadn't started changing, I just felt like I couldn't really ask people to say he because I don't know, it's almost like I didn't feel worthy of it or something. I don't know. It took me a while to get to that place where I realized like I could actually have what I wanted. And yeah, that took me a long time actually.
But when he got there, it felt like a victory. It really did. The day he was like, he said, "I'm ready. I'm ready to be referred to as he and to go by Taylor." And I was like, "You want me to?" You know, I wanted to be asked. I didn't want to do these things because it felt natural to us. You know, even though that's a huge step, but it wasn't enough. I wanted it to come from him, and I had to be asked to do it. And he finally asked and said, "This is what I want for my life," and I was glad to hop on board. It took a while. It took some tries. It was interesting in front of friends who this conversation didn't take place with.
Yeah.
So it was between me and him, and so we could do it in our, we can
in our own world,
in our home, in our own world. And then when anyone entered it, it got a little sticky and complicated and confusing and messy at times, I guess. But
it still gets that way with family too. Like they all know mostly at this point, but it's also just like their process of switching over and their sort of sensitiveness to the subject, where it's like if Nicole's saying Taylor and Nicole is saying he, like it's not her being mean, it's simply her doing what I've asked her to do, but they're also going through their own process, so it's like usually when family is around, it's sort of like a dance where no one's really saying either of my names, and no one's saying he or she. So I'm just kind of this non-descriptive.
It's interesting how many ways you can compile a sentence without using any pronouns or names.
It's actually possible, but it's
possible, but complicated.
You have to rearrange it, and it's kind of like noticeable.
You kind of sound stupid sometimes. Like, what is she doing? She can't like say a sentence correctly.
Yeah, it takes Nicole like 3 seconds before she starts speaking, but you know she's trying to speak. You just kind of gotta wait for her. But it's just really it's more or less out of respect to try to like everyone is sensitive to everyone's feelings, and it's a dance, you know.
I don't want to hurt him. You know, I didn't want to hurt him, which I knew that every time I said she or someone said she to him or used his birth name, it was what he described, like a slap in the face or a stab each time, and I didn't want to participate in that. The same time, I couldn't step on anyone's toes, and I never had any of those intentions. I feel very sensitive to the family's, perspective, and relationship with Taylor. So I definitely didn't want to be looked at as the girlfriend who came in and changed everything. I only wanted to support Taylor, so I tried very hard and looked kind of ridiculous. But so we did that for a while.
Yeah.
But now the family knows, and now the family participates, or your mother and your stepdad participate in changing the pronouns and going by Taylor. So it's much easier to have a conversation now.
Yeah, there's not as much stress on either.
Like palms don't sweat anymore. Like
both parties have sort of found an acceptance and a level of no one has to worry as much.
Yeah, so it's nice because we're all going through a process, and mine doesn't look anything like what his mom has to go through, his stepdad, his father, things like that. And I don't want to compare because the process I've gone through during transition is so different. So yeah, I mean, that's important just to recognize that, I think. So changes in our relationship. I wanted to go over that. So since starting T, Taylor's patience level has dropped dramatically.
Yeah.
So he is pretty passionate about things, more vocal. So that's a huge change. He is very confident and more outspoken about certain things that he's passionate about. And sometimes it's just a little scary because I'm not used to it. I am used to this quiet, passive person. And so, for an example, we were in a parking lot structure and a car was reversing and
way too fast.
Really fast, and there were children around, and we were right behind the vehicle.
And the kids.
And the kids were there too. So normally I feel like he would just pull me, or something, and we would take a step back or something like that. But in this circumstance, he yelled. It was like this, hey, stop. And he took control of the situation and put himself out there. And that is so not the
me.
Old Taylor. So it's really neat to see things like that. To see someone come into themselves is a really beautiful thing. And I've seen so much of that, and I feel just really lucky. Really lucky to see someone grow and be proud of who they're growing into. So, yeah, very outspoken, super passionate, but the confidence part is really becoming, I think. It's really attractive that he believes in himself more and what his life can look like, I guess.
Yeah.
It's exciting. So, I guess I just want to end with saying to the transgender community that I'm so proud of you guys. I'm a supporter, and I always will be. So I just love you guys. I guess sounds crazy, but I just understand so much more now, and I wish I was never ignorant to these details. I wish I always knew about it. Definitely going to raise my kids knowing that this exists and that this is okay. Cool. So, yeah.
All right. Well.
I did it.
Yeah. If you guys made it to the end, 18 minutes in, thanks for listening. I hope
Cool.
you enjoyed it. And yeah, keep your comments coming. We appreciate it. Nicole reads them too. We usually sit down and look at all my stuff and appreciate all your support. And hope some people found this helpful. And I have to shave my face really soon. I officially have like long ones down here. And so
and up right here.
Yeah. They're really actually officially coming in, I'm not just excited.
Yeah.
So I will do a video when I maybe a before and after, or maybe just a video of me shaving. So, okay guys. See you YouTube.
Bye.